Alright, hello everyone. So, ignore my voice. I'm getting a little bit of a sore throat. But today I just want to talk about some minor tips from a beginner of V-Rising to potentially another beginner. Mainly like what I'm trying to focus on helping out this video. Just minor things that you may accidentally mess up on and it'll cause constrictions kind of later on. You can always get this. These are always easy to overcome, but it's just like things that help you to keep on pace with leveling up and doing things and progressing. So first things first, one of the most important things you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to go ahead as soon as you can, and when you're playing the game, you're gonna want to get one of these blood presses, because this is gonna get you to get, obviously, for you to get blood and blood essence and greater blood essences. So what we're trying to do here, the reason this is important is later on you're going to need these greater blood essences for a lot of things that you want to do to progress, that are going to progress the little quests that you got going on here, such as making servant coffins. This requires you to have I believe it's four greater blood essences. No, just one. Okay, so you need one for this, and then whenever you're trying to do the quest next to that, you're gonna need 4 of them for the castle throne. So that's 4 unsullied hearts. So just keep a hold of your unsullied hearts as you play the game. You're gonna need them. You're gonna need a lot of them. I'd recommend not using them unless you're in a last ditch effort, or like in a scenario where you just really need blood. Use it. Other than that, just try to use the tainted hearts. So that's pretty important. Also, another important thing that you may not be entirely aware of, whenever you are early off in the game, you may be a little confused on the fact that when you hover over enemies, it says, for example, here my friend here, it says his name, and it says he's creature 6%. What that means is that it's your blood type. So, for example, here I am warrior. I get increased physical power. And it obviously changes based off the quality of your blood. The higher quality your blood, the better the stat. Like the more of the stats you'll get here, and all the way up to boosting everything else by 30% when you have the 5th one. Basically, it gives you increased percents on things based on what your stats are. So mine is obviously physical power, reduced weapon skill cooldown, etc., etc. Some of them are like movement speed, critical strike chance. What else? Like resource gain, etc., etc. Those are all different types of bloods, and that's what the percent on certain enemies. If you look at their health bar or like near it, it'll say their percent of something. That is what they are, and that is what they provide you. And so generally you want to get a higher level mob, like a higher percent level mob, and then feed it and take its blood. And depending on what you want to do, you're going to want to switch this around. So if you want like a worker blood type, they'll give you resources, etc. Creature's pretty common, and it gives pretty good stats, such as like damage reduction, movement speed, most importantly. Feeding also generally seems like it fills up this blood pool the most. You have things like tainted hearts and sullied hearts to provide blood and rats, but these can be used for blood essences to progress your base. And yeah, another important thing, later in the game you'll be trying to get iron. Iron is most plentiful, it seems like, here in the Haunted Mine, is from everything I've learned. And you're gonna need reinforced copper tools to get it, or you can go through the kind of like BS strategy me and my friend had, where we used the Merciless Hunter's crossbow and just shot the iron with the bow and it breaks apart. Then you're gonna smelt it down, turn that into things, all sorts of different things. Don't really worry too much about your castle layout at first. Generally when you start the game, you're probably going to be near one of the 2 way gates, east or west. I'd recommend starting probably west or east. It doesn't really matter. Basically, what your goal is here is to build in one of these starter areas, and then if you really want to be very min-maxy about it, you're gonna want to build in these upper middle areas, because a lot of the V-blood that you'll be chasing is in this area right here. They go from all the way over here inside of the trapper camp to the stronghold to there's one in the Forgotten Cemetery, there's one in the copper mine, there's one in the armory, and they wander around here as well. There's also one inside of the sulfur quarry. So they wander around, and a lot of them are just around this area, and then as you progress, they're gonna go up here as well. So if you really want to be min-maxy, you want to build in like one of these middle areas where you have a lot of access to just get around freely. But don't be afraid to like start out in one of these starter zones and just venture out. Because you're not going to have a whole lot of blood essence, and you're going to need that for your castle heart. If you want to keep your base up and running. It's important that you keep track of that as well, your blood essence, because each one of the tiles here for your borders requires 2 blood essence, and it's easy to quickly just like burn yourself out of it if you're just making it for every individual thing you're trying to do. That's one of the big recommendations. Also, don't be afraid to experiment with skills and just, you know, try to find a playstyle suited best for you. There's a lot of skills in this game that I haven't got to use yet. But yeah, don't be afraid. Also, big thing that I would like to point out is that you don't necessarily need to follow this blood altar in the order that they go in. How things ended up based on how things kind of happened. We ended up accidentally killing Goreswine before we even killed the Alpha Wolf. She was guarding the path towards the Alpha Wolf, and so we ended up killing her. So you don't really need to do these in necessarily the order. This order is just based on their level, not based on the difficulty, because I'd actually argue that Lydia is harder than the Goreswine, but that's just my personal opinion. Looking at this list from the bosses I fought so far, the Alpha Wolf is very easy. These first couple are extremely easy bosses. Even Keely is pretty easy. Lydia can hit pretty hard, but she's not too hard to fight. Grayson is really easy. Goreswine is just really annoying how she moves. Clive is really annoying. Clive, I'd recommend you fight with ranged weapons or ranged attacks. Clive does a lot of throwing of bombs because he's in the sulfur quarry. So generally the best way that we found to do that was just kind of hit him from range and fight him. Because if you get close, he drops a bomb. He'll start bombing the ground in front of you, and he doesn't take damage from his own bombs. You might be able to also kill him with the dynamite just laying around the place, so that you could look into that strategy. Pelora, the Feywalker, she's really annoying because she likes to spawn a bunch of ads. Her and Nicholas like to spawn a bunch of the smaller like level mobs, but they shoot a lot of attacks and they spawn them a lot. So she's not very hard, but it's just like it's just that they can get out of hand very quickly. Nicholas is the same thing. He's in the cemetery here. Right here. Sorry, he's in the Forgotten Cemetery here. He is also very annoying about that because he likes to spawn a lot of ads, a lot of skeletons just continuously, which can cause problems. Now Quincy, you can see that we've killed Quincy after killing Clive. That was just kind of happen chance. He's pretty tough. We were fighting with 5 people and he was kicking our asses. However, if you can get him down, you can get your first ultimate in the game and the smithy and be able to make iron ingots. So he's pretty important. One important thing that I recommend you guys do, by the way, to do this, you can kill the ferocious bear first, if that's what you choose to do, or you can just go through the wall by blowing it up with explosives that you learned from Clive. But you don't necessarily need to do that. I haven't looked into any of this other stuff. Um, and then if you have, you'll get books from bosses. So that you can, you know, craft better armors. Here, the Merciless Night Stalker stuff. One important thing that I highly recommend is that if you do get a lot of variations of that you keep those books, even if you're not going to use them, so you can feed them to the Devourer here, and that will drop you paper. Then you can put that into the research desk and develop more things to, you know, craft for yourself. I do know there's a study. I do know there's etc. Like more things, etc., etc. But just yeah, that's important. Also, another quick tip: if you're new, don't be afraid to build many furnaces. Iron takes about 2 minutes and 30 seconds per smelt. It seems like maybe a little off on that. Yeah, 180 seconds. There you go. So it's a little long. But yeah, it's pretty important just to know that. Items do get a benefit from being on the right floor to reduce resource cost, but that's not always the easiest thing to do because some of them start to require different materials. For example, the alchemy table requires sulfur. So, also, just in case you didn't know, whenever you're trying to get these stone walls up so you can have your roof over your base, I think it requires you to have a floor, of course, but you're also going to need these things called a grinder. You put in 12 stone in, and it'll give you a stone brick so that you can turn that into walls. You're going to need a lot of it, and it takes a lot of time, so I recommend building at least 2, so they can do it quickly. The sawmill, you know, is fast enough as it is, but the grinders can take a little bit of time. But yeah, also when you log off, you probably want to do it in your coffin. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory, but you know, it's not necessarily. I just recommend doing it. I believe it's just safer that way. But yeah. Let me see here. Is there anything else I really need to bring up that I can, you know, comfortably share right now? Build the traveler's drop when you can. Obviously, this is also pretty important. It gives you sun resistance, which is kind of important. And if you're newer, another tip that I can give that I've learned so far. Let's see. I'm still very new to the game. Another tip that I can give pretty comfortably. If you're trying to find a way to get around and the wolf form is just not doing it for you, if you go up past here, in these zones, they have horses. So you can get a horse, and they are significantly faster than the wolf form. Just don't forget that you're gonna need to give them these water-filled canteens so they can survive for longer. And yeah, so that's pretty important. What else can I recommend? Don't be afraid to use your dash. So your dash just isn't a dash. It's for example, mine's Veil of Bones. Obviously you're immune to any attacks while dashing, so they can't hit you when you're in that dash, I believe. And so you can like kind of iframe it like Dark Souls. And then they do different things. So for example, I have Veil of Bones on, which gives my next basic attack that I do after dashing, deals 75% magic damage, and it can bounce up to 3 targets. And it inflicts Amplify, which increases the damage they take by 25% for 5 seconds. So this is a really good one for like burst, or if you're just trying to like, you know, just get a little bit of extra damage out there. Then you have stuff like Veil of Chaos, where you can dash twice, and increases your next melee attack damage by 25%, and it'll blow up your clones, doing 40% magic damage. And the other one I could show you is Veil of Blood. It makes your next primary attack deal 25% bonus damage, and it heals you for 6% of your maximum health. So if you're having life issues, like staying alive problems, this is a pretty good skill for that. Other than that, a lot of what you're gonna do in this game is, you know, you're gonna farm things up and get things rolling, and then there's gonna take time. Getting a servant takes like an hour and a half for him to craft, and just other various things that may vary depending on your server. I can recommend that if you're building a base, I recommend building at least a servant lock on certain doors, especially if you're gonna have on a PvP server to your castle heart, because if players get in here, they can just go onto it and hit destroy, and it can destroy your entire base. It's kind of what the rating is about. And your servants can wander around and open doors, I believe. So, just in case you don't want them just to wander into this room, your servants can die as well. I guess that's pretty important. But yeah, everything else is like pretty self-explanatory in the game. If you need leather, you have to tan it with animal hide. If you need ingots, you have to smelt them. If you need trees, if you need planks, I'm sorry, you have to cut them up in the sawmill. And then every workbench you get will provide a different use. Like this one provides woodworking materials because it's a woodworking bench. Minor tip that I can bring up now as well. If you're fighting bosses in this area, there is a vampire hunter named Tristan that likes to roam around, because certain bosses, such as Lydia and Gorswine, do not necessarily spawn in a set area. It seems like they like to roam around. You can encounter them on the road being attacked, or they'll run onto you when you're in one of these zones trying to fight a boss, and they can cause problems. Tristan especially, he's a high level, and he can potentially kill you. But I can tell you right now that Nicholas spawns here, Quincy spawns at the Bandit Stronghold. Let me see here. I don't remember all their names. Stonebreaker, I believe, spawns in the copper mine. Well, I can't be like 100% on these. The armorer guy spawns here. Grayson. Keely spawns at like this, I believe right here in the bandit trapper camp. The freezing lady. I think the foreman spawns here, and Clive spawns here. There's a lady that walks around here as well. I'm not sure of everybody. There's also a giant frost giant that walks around up here. I can't kill him yet, and there's a boss that spawns here as well. But other than that, guys, there's not much I can really share that I can think of off the top of my head. Other than that, I can just, oh yeah, you can this exposed vein. I guess this is pretty important. If you're playing co-op, this exposed vein likes it so that you can share blood with your teammates if they need it. If my friend J-Chap here was low on blood, I could expose my vein and he could feed some off me so that he could potentially heal himself back up. But yeah, guys, that's all I want to talk about. I know this may not be very helpful. Oh, one important thing I almost forgot. Every now and then you will see that on your time dial here that the nighttime is going to be red. That is a blood moon, and what that does is it increases your stats from your blood type by 20%, I believe. So they provide big benefits. It can do some crazy things. Yeah, guys. I know that this may not be very helpful, but I just want to share some minor tips that I've learned. Just starting off, I'm loving the game. It's a whole lot of fun. I'm getting a little sick, but yeah. I just want to share those tips because they're easy mistakes to make, and there's little tips to like help out from that I've had to like power through and deal with. If I had to give one closing tip here, mine all of the ores you see so you can have stockpiles of it because you're gonna need a lot of copper. But other than that, guys, thank you guys for watching, and hope you guys have a nice night. Enjoy yourselves, and see you guys.